when you heard those two clips, first of all, the president with George Stephanopoulos of ABC, who gave him a fairly easy ride, to be honest. There was the president trying to prove that he's still on the top of his best mental game. And then that snafu, as they say in America, on WURD. Are you reassured that this is the man who should lead the ticket against Donald Trump?
Look, I think that with all due respect to everyone who recognizes that this is a very big story in the media, this is a very big story in the media partly because everybody is making this a very big story. My view is that we should be talking about the incompetence of Donald Trump, not the incompetence of Joe Biden. We should be talking about the fact that he is a criminal psychopath who is equally, if not considerably more incoherent than Joe Biden on a good day. He's been babbling about sharks and batteries. He's been talking about magnets. He said that in the American Revolution in 1775, the war took over the airports. And that was during his presidency. That was 6 years ago, right? So I'm not saying, obviously nobody wants to get into an argument about, which incoherent president is the best president, right? But I certainly think that, that the Philadelphia clip, in my view, and again, with respect, I think has been really overplayed. He is a stutterer, remember. And what he did there was he slightly stumbled over the fact that he is proud of the fact that he was the vice president to the first black president in the United States, and that his vice president is the first black woman. And it is not difficult to tangle up those words if you're speaking quickly. I almost just tangled.
No, I think you're right, Sarah. The problem is that everyone's going to be looking out for those clips now, and they will be provided. But I think you're completely right that Donald Trump, is if you added up all the incongruities, and all the word pretzels out there, and all the the BS, frankly, that can be uttered, Trump probably wins that. But he also makes the point that Bill Clinton once made, that America prefers strong and wrong to right and weak. And in terms of the projection of the voice, Biden is right and weak.
Right. Okay. So because Trump is loud, we're going to vote for him.
I'm not saying weak. I'm not saying one should, but people will.
Sure, but I'm saying that on the incoherence, the incoherence is kind of the least of it. Is my point, right?
Yeah.
Is that he's also a criminal psychopath with 34 felony convictions. What we need, and a conviction for sexual assault. What we need to be focusing on is the fact that the Supreme Court, as you well know, the Supreme Court just made an absolutely terrifying decision that created the legal foundations for a dictatorship. We don't know who Trump's vice president would be. He hasn't even picked anybody yet. So, he is also only 3 years younger than Biden. So let's game it out where either one of them can't complete a second term. If Biden can't complete a second term, we have Kamala Harris, who is a law-abiding, sane person who would step up to the job. We don't even know who Trump would put in, but what we do know is that his previous vice president refused to endorse him because Trump tried to have him lynched. Yeah. And because, and we don't know who he'll pick. And the man who is in charge of Trump's transitional project, Project 2025, just announced after the Supreme Court decision on Tuesday, he said that we are in a second American Revolution and it will be bloodless if the left allows it to be.
I played that clip on Channel 4 News, and it is absolutely chilling. That kind of talk.
And he's in charge of Trump's transition. This is what people don't realize. They think he's just some right-wing wacko. He's in charge of Trump's transition. And this is what we have to focus on. So my view is that the but Biden's old sounds exactly to me like in 2016, but her emails, and it worked, right? Everybody thought that Hillary Clinton was the crook in that scenario. Yeah. Were there questions? Yes, there were questions. But she was not the crook in that scenario. Donald Trump was the crook in that scenario. And we're doing it again. But he's old. Well, so is Trump, but he's incoherent. Well, so is Trump. And Trump is a criminal psychopath.
I think you're right, Sarah. But the problem is that, with Hillary Clinton's emails, and I was there on the night at a New Hampshire rally where Trump kind of brandished the piece of paper that James Comey, the head of the FBI, had reopened the investigation. And I knew then in my gut that her goose was cooked because of the weirdness of that particular issue and because it was abstract. But this is different, right? Joe Biden, even though his brain probably does function more coherently than Trump's does, and he's not a felon, and he's not out for himself. Hang on a minute. But every time he walks across that stage, you see that almost death maskly face that reminds me of Ramesses II after 2,000 years as a mummy. It's not great. And politics is about perception and it's about projection. So I'm asking you again. Don't you think that if you are trying to prevent America from having the imperial presidency, if you're trying to save the republic, you've got to give it your best shot. Is he the best shot you can give?
Well, I don't think he is the best shot we can give. No, but let me say a couple more things about this. I think we need a street fighter. Yes, we're fighting a street fighter, and we need a street fighter. And I don't think that this decent, patriotic 81-year-old man, who is certainly on his last legs, is the best street fighter we have. But the next question becomes then, does anybody who is watching this seriously believe that the next person who stands up, that the American media is just going to quietly applaud the Democrat who takes over and say, oh, they're going to do a great job, let's focus on them? The knives will still be out because that is the way it is working right now. And so, the idea that if Kamala then steps up, you don't think we're going to see misogyny and racism like you have never seen? Let's remember that this is, Trump won because America was not ready for a woman president and because they were in a massive backlash against the first black president. And so the idea that a black woman is going to just waltz into the White House and there's not going to be the most vicious smears that you've ever seen, I mean, it's just going to be that they're going to find something. That's the fight that we're in.
But hang on, but Kamala Harris, who we haven't really seen enough of, who's been defined in her absence on the stage in largely negative ways, she is a street fighter, right? I've seen her in action. She's quite extraordinary. Wouldn't you give the Democrats a better chance, despite all the misogyny and racism out there, if you had her doing the fighting on the barricades?
I'm not saying that if I personally would not in this instance choose Biden over Harris. What I'm saying is that I will choose either one of them over the alternative, and that we have to keep framing it that way. Because every time that we have this debate, we're doing Donald Trump a favor. This is what he wants us to be talking about, instead of his flagrant unfitness for the office that he seeks to resume, and because of the massive dangers that he represents. So, these are things that need to be. They need to be. Do we need to confront the potential misogyny and racism? Maybe we do. Can we handle it? Possibly we can. I will say one other thing that I think that British listeners, need to understand, because people are. I hear them play what I call fantasy football, where they start saying, "Well, what about Obama or Michelle Obama or even Gavin Newsom and stuff?" Right? First of all, I mean, it's been pointed out online. Gavin Newsom, who's the governor of California, his ex-wife is now dating Don Jr. apparently, which was news to me. But
Trump Jr. Yes,
yeah. So the idea that there's not going to be, that there isn't going to be, mud slung at whoever gets put up there is my fundamental point. But secondly, is that people need to bear in mind that the Biden-Harris campaign has a $100 million war chest that was super PAC that was donated to them, not to the Democratic Party. And if the nominee is not one of the two of them, that $100 million has to be returned. Yeah. And whoever people think is going to get nominated in open convention in August would have 10 weeks to raise the money to fight Trump.
Okay.
So
it's complicated. Just finally, and very, very briefly, Sarah, at the moment, if you have to put money on it, do you think that he'll still be on the ticket in November the 5th, or will the pressure have mounted sufficiently to have him removed?
I think he'll be removed. I think it'll be Harris and a white male governor.